we are what the future is for women.
Yeah.
And I look at having my daughters and...
It still haunted her. Behind her quiet no was a family broken apart and a man spiraling into chaos. Though she did nothing wrong, Sophia Loren later admitted to feeling a deep sadness for what happened, a sadness born from a burden too many women carry unfairly, the guilt for a man's self-destruction. But then came a more harrowing encounter, one that didn't just leave regret, but left a scar. In 1967, while filming a Countess from Hong Kong with Marlon Brando, she experienced an unthinkable violation of trust. In a scene meant to depict passion, Brando took liberties, grabbing her, forcing a kiss, and biting her lip hard enough to draw blood. It wasn't in the script. It wasn't agreed upon. Sophia pulled away, stunned, humiliated, but she didn't cause a scene. Instead, she stood up, chin high, eyes steady, and simply said, "Never do that to me again." That one sentence echoed louder than any outburst. It was defiance without drama, strength without spectacle. She later described it as one of the most disrespectful moments of her career, but also the moment she fully discovered the force of her own resolve. Hollywood has always been a double-edged sword for women like Sophia Loren, celebrated for their beauty, yet expected to endure the cost of it. But she never surrendered to bitterness. In interviews, when asked about these moments of violation, she didn't focus on the pain. She spoke instead about dignity, how to protect it, how to live with it, even when others try to take it away. "I learned to say no with my eyes, even when I was afraid," she once said. And those eyes, immortalized on screen, had seen too much. They'd seen adoration, yes, but also the quiet cruelty that fame can bring. Still, through it all, Sophia Loren never lost herself. In the face of unspoken trauma, she remained not just a symbol of elegance, but of endurance, grace, and power that didn't need to shout to be heard. Just when it seemed that her worst storms were behind her, life reminded Sophia that pain doesn't always stay private. Sometimes it makes headlines. In 1982, at the height of her grace and respectability, Sophia Loren found herself behind bars, not for a crime of malice, but for a bureaucratic snafu over unpaid taxes. The Italian courts sentenced her to 30 days. She served 17 in a prison cell in Naples. To the public, it was scandal. To Sophia, it was humiliation. "Those 17 days felt like 17 years, she later confessed. The world had always seen her as untouchable, an icon of elegance. Yet here she was, stripped of glamour, sleeping on a prison cot, sharing a cell, and enduring the gaze of guards who once admired her on the silver screen. Though she remained poised throughout, the experience left a deep wound. It wasn't just the confinement, it was the sting of being treated like a criminal after living a life of dignity. Her lawyer would later claim it was a clerical error, and the matter was resolved in her favor. But the damage was done. "It wasn't the time in prison that hurt the most," she said. "It was the shame." Meanwhile, her husband, Carlo Ponti, was fighting legal battles of his own. Accusations surrounding his vast art collection and financial dealings brought scrutiny from Italian and French authorities. The media pounced, portraying the couple as a dynasty in decline. But Sophia never faltered in public. When she emerged from prison, she didn't wear a disguise or hide. She stepped out in a crisp white suit, head high, poise intact. It was a masterclass in resilience. A woman who knew the cameras would feast on her fall, but chose to face them anyway. For many, that image of Sophia, stoic, proud, and impossibly dignified, was more powerful than any of her film roles. It proved her strength wasn't just performance, it was real, forged through decades of hardship. Reflecting later, she said, "You are not only the roles you play. You are also the trials you survive." The world had always seen Sophia Loren as a goddess. But it was in that lowest, loneliest moment, in a prison cell with no script, no spotlight, that she proved she was something rarer, a woman of unshakable grace under fire. They say legends never fade. And for Sophia Loren, that truth lives on, not just in film reels, but in the quiet elegance of her present-day life. Now in her 90s, she lives mainly in Geneva, Switzerland, far from the spotlights that once chased her across red carpets. It's a place of healing, reflection, and serenity, fitting for a woman who spent a lifetime enduring noise and spectacle. Though she sold her iconic Roman villa, Villa Sera, in 2007, her spirit still lingers in the home she once curated, filled with art, photographs, and memories only she can truly understand. Her former summer estate in California, described by her son as a little village, also reflected a life lived in grandeur. But today, Sophia chooses simplicity over splendor. Her financial legacy is just as inspiring. With a net worth estimated between $75 million and $150 million, she earned her fortune through decades of cinema, endorsements, and smart investments. Her current residence in Geneva is a high-value property. Her past homes, including La Concordia in California, which sold for nearly $7 million, reflect a life of achievement and taste. She also once owned a condo on Williams Island, Florida, known for its luxury and privacy. Her wealth includes a world-class art collection and valuable jewelry, including pieces once stolen in million-dollar heists. A 2007 sale of a Francis Bacon painting alone earned her $16.5 million, highlighting the scale of her private collection. In 2023, Sophia suffered a serious fall, fracturing her hip and thigh. An event that could have ended many other lives at her age, but not hers. With the same strength that carried her through war, poverty, and scandal, she faced recovery head-on, attending physiotherapy 5 times a week. She follows a Mediterranean diet, light dinners, fresh pastas, salads. Her discipline, even now, is unwavering. "Everything you see, I owe to spaghetti," she once joked. But beneath the charm lies a lifetime of choices guided by self-respect. Far from retired, Sophia Loren remains a symbol of timeless vitality. In 2020, at age 86, she starred in The Life Ahead, directed by her son, Eduardo. It wasn't just a comeback, it was a rebirth. Critics hailed her performance as haunting, heartfelt, and lived-in, a reminder that true artistry only deepens with time. She later became the face of Dolce & Gabbana's Dolce Rosa Excelsa perfume, launched a namesake restaurant in Hong Kong, and appeared in the touching Netflix documentary What Would Sophia Loren Do?, a tribute to her enduring influence. Yet none of that defines her now. Her true legacy is not in the films or fame, but in the quiet power of who she has become. At her 90th birthday, dressed in Giorgio Armani and diamonds, she glowed, not with celebrity, but with luminous peace. "There is a fountain of youth," she once said. "It is your mind, your talents, the creativity you bring to life." That belief has guided her every step, and still does. To the world, Sophia Loren is a goddess of cinema. But to those who look closer, she is a lesson in endurance, transformation, and quiet triumph. Her life is a symphony of grace, heartbreak, courage, and reinvention. In a world where beauty fades and fame flickers, Sophia Loren remains a flame that refuses to go out. Her story, from the ashes of war-torn Naples to the heights of Hollywood royalty, isn't just a tale of success. It's a blueprint for resilience, for dignity, and for triumph against the odds. She is not just a cinematic legend. She is the voice of every woman who has ever been doubted, dismissed, or broken, and yet rose again, brighter than before. "Nothing makes a woman more beautiful than the belief that she is beautiful," she once said. And her life has echoed that belief in every heartbreak, every triumph, and every scar turned into stardust. Now, we want to hear from you. After hearing Sophia Loren's extraordinary, harrowing, yet inspiring journey, what part moved you the most? On a scale of 0 to 10, how deeply do you admire her, not just as a star, but as a symbol of the enduring human spirit? She was more than a movie star. She was elegance carved from war, grace born of hardship, and strength wrapped in silk. But behind Sophia Loren's dazzling smile lay wounds the world never saw. This is the untold story of a woman who endured pain, scandal, betrayal, and walked through fire with her head held high. You thought you knew her, but you've only seen the surface. Let us take you deeper. He said he loved her. But when Sophia Loren said no, she had no idea the cost that refusal would bring. Behind that simple word was the beginning of a man's public downfall and a woman's lifelong wound. She didn't cheat. She didn't lie. She simply said no. Yet it left her with guilt, not because she did anything wrong, but because a man chose to destroy himself after her rejection. And like many women, Sophia quietly carried the burden of his collapse. But even worse was yet to come. 1967. On the set of A Countess from Hong Kong. Her co-star, Marlon Brando, Hollywood legend. What happened next was not scripted. During a scene, Brando grabbed her without warning. He kissed her forcefully, then bit her lip. Hard. So hard, she bled. She pulled away. Stunned. Humiliated. But she didn't cry. Didn't scream. She looked him in the eye and said, "Never do that to me again." That one sentence held more power than 1,000 headlines. It wasn't just a boundary, it was a shield. Sophia later said it was one of the most disrespectful moments of her career. But in that moment, she found her voice. The quiet kind of strength. The kind that doesn't need to shout to be heard. Then came the humiliation that no diamond or award could protect her from. 1982. Sophia Loren, beloved icon, national treasure, is sentenced to 30 days in prison. Her crime? Not theft. Not violence. A tax error. A technicality that sent her to a cold prison cell in Naples. She served 17 days. Each one, she said, felt like a year. The world watched in shock. The woman they adored was now behind bars. No makeup. No diamonds. No spotlight. Just a hard bed. A cold floor. And shame. Not the time in prison, she later said, but the shame, that was the real punishment. When she walked out, there was no disguise. Just a crisp white suit. Her head held high. It was more than fashion. It was a statement, "You will not break me." At the same time, her husband Carlo Ponti faced his own legal turmoil. Accusations. Investigations. Rumors. But Sophia never wavered. She stayed loyal. Even when the press painted them as a dynasty in collapse. She stood beside him, not as a victim, but as a woman who had already survived too much to crumble now. That's what made her different. She didn't run from the storm. She stood in the center of it, and let the world watch her, not fall, but rise. Fast forward to 2020. She's 86 years old, and she's starring in a Netflix film, The Life Ahead, directed by her son, Eduardo Ponti. Critics raved. Audiences cried. She wasn't acting. She was living. Every wrinkle told a story. Every glance carried decades of pain and triumph. And just like that, Sophia Loren reminded the world, a true star never dims. She just shines differently with time. Then, in 2023, tragedy struck again. A brutal fall. A broken hip. At 89 years old, it could have been the end. But not for Sophia Loren. She got up, faced the pain, and began intense therapy 5 times a week. Because that's who she is. A woman who refuses to surrender to age, to pain, or to pity. Today, she lives quietly in Geneva, Switzerland. She once owned mansions in Rome, Malibu, and Florida. But she gave up the glamour for peace. Her net worth, estimated between $75 million and $150 million. A fortune built on more than beauty, built on endurance. She owns art that has sold for millions. Jewelry that once made headlines in heists. But ask her what matters, and she'll tell you, dignity, work, family, legacy. She's not just a screen goddess. She's a survivor. A warrior in red lipstick. A woman who said no and paid the price. Who was betrayed, belittled, imprisoned, but never defeated. In her own words, you are not only the roles you play. You are also the trials you survive. If this story moved you, we want to hear from you. Which moment in Sophia Loren's incredible journey touched you the most? On a scale from 0 to 10, how much do you admire her, not as a star but as a human being? Comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe too. Because stories like Sophia's, they're not just history. They're lessons. They're strength. They're reminders that real beauty never fades.